Before you jump into this episode, the Pride special for Spouse It Up Season 3 Prickly Pears, we have Malvika on our episode today, who is in a same sex relationship with her life partner, Ranisha. They are both from different countries. They grew up in different parts of the world, but found each other in their journey in Singapore, and then now they live in San Francisco. If all of this moving around and growing up as a gay person in two countries that still don't have legalized same sex relationships and marriages was not interesting enough for you, there are so many other tidbits that we discussed through the episode on what are the pros of same sex relationships where you don't have any heteronormative stereotypes to live up. The woman cooks and the man goes out to earn money. What did you think were a lesbian relationship look like when there is nobody playing a man role and a woman role? We also discussed laws of different countries and how that affects their decision of living in San Francisco Bay Area at this point, and what are the other countries that are opening up their arms to people like them. If you are an ally or you have someone in your life that's struggling with sexual identity or you just want to help, I think you'll find something in this episode for sure. I know I did, despite being friends with them for so long. I learned so much today, and my regular heteronormative marriage is going to benefit from what I learned from these women today. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. There's no waiting anymore. Hey, this is Nalini, and there's no Ankita today, but I hope we don't miss her that much. Today, we are celebrating just like all other brown women that we've celebrated on the pod so far. It's almost Pride Month. It's a little bit over Pride Month, but I have my very good friend Malvika here with me. She lives in SF, and she and I know each other from the time we went to the same business school at different times, but we know each other because we lived with each other for 2 years. Was it 2 years or more in Singapore? And we're trying to recreate our Singapore condo living room today in this virtual space between Dublin and San Francisco. And hopefully, we come out of today learning a lot more about Malvika, her journey, finding and discovering herself, talking about how she looks at spousing it up. Without further ado, and I will let Malvika.
Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm Malvika. I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was born in Calcutta, but soon, like when I was 5, we moved to Delhi, and that's where I was basically raised. And I grew up, went to college. So I went to Delhi University, and then started my career as a software engineer. Also, when I was growing up, I told myself like I either want to do animation or I want to do computer science.
Yeah.
And you know how it is in India. I always like to joke that in India, people say you first do computer science and then figure out what you want to do with your life. So that's what I did. I did my computer science. I took my basically I graduated in computer science and then I took up a job as a software engineer in Gurgaon.
Yeah.
But then I always had like a I was more I never really enjoyed like sitting in front of the computer for hours. So I knew that I wanted I wanted to do something else. So basically I started looking at other careers and I discovered that I'm more interested in business. So I essentially applied to ISB, and that's when I got my first job in data analytics. And this is 2013, where data analytics was like really new and hot and stuff. So I joined Axis
Yeah.
Bank as one of the first like founding members of a data science team. Had a lot of fun in Mumbai. I moved to Mumbai. Had a lot of fun there. It was my first stint kind of living alone outside the house. So that was super exciting. And after a couple of years in Axis Bank, I actually moved to Google in India. And with Google, I also moved to the US for a while. I'm someone who's like lived in different parts of the world. So just like you, Nalini. So
Yeah.
I was in the US for a short stint, roughly 2 years, before moving to Singapore. And that's where you and I met. Spent around 3 years in Singapore, and then I moved back to the US just at the beginning of the pandemic. So 2020, I think Feb 2020, I moved. Went to office for
God,
two
good
days
for you.
before
I
shutting
still
down.
remember, like, I really want to share a quick story. Like, for all of those wondering why was moving around, like, back and forth, why she couldn't make up her mind between US and Singapore. I still remember you're like, I like to wear sweatshirts. And in Singapore, I can't fucking wear sweatshirts. So I will move back to the Bay Area where I can move sweatshirts and be cool.
Yeah, exactly. I love my
And
hoodies. Yeah.
you like, thankfully, you're not wearing them now in the Bay Area. It's summer.
It's summer, so yeah, it's one of those rare days when I'm not wearing a hoodie. But yeah, here for in the US for 5 years now. So As I mentioned, I worked at Google. Then I switched over to Meta when Facebook when I moved to Singapore. And yeah, that's where I am now.
So now that we know all your professional history and where you've lived and grown up, we'll come to the topic of the season,
Mhm.
spousing it up.
Yeah.
What's your status in that regard right now? And yeah, I'll let you talk more about it.
I don't know, Ali, you've been like watching my this side of my story like from day one. I think you were on ground zero. I think one of the few people who were there actually. Yeah, I'm currently in a long term committed relationship with my partner. Her name is Ranisha. So she and I met in Singapore. She's actually a Singaporean. And yeah, that's where we are. We've been together for I think we met in 2019. So yeah, it's 6 years now, and five
Wow,
years
it's
of
already
actually
six
living
years.
together. Yeah.
And so do you call each other life partners or spouses? Because that's what we're quizzing this season. Do you just call each other spouse or partner, or like what do you
I think we go by
usually?
partner. I think it's just easy. I think that's the term we like. We both were like not very set in the traditional marriage setup. So I think this works for us.
Today you have a partner who's the same sex as you. What did you grow up thinking about marriages, and did you ever imagine yourself at a wedding and in your wedding at that?
I have three sisters, so we were four of us. So and my mom, we consider us as a one big team. So grew up in a very female dominated household. But I always knew, like even when I was maybe as early as 5 or 6, that I was sort of different. Maybe it was a way to stand out even amongst my siblings, but I always knew that I was a tomboy. That's how I love tomboy characters in like novels. There's a character called George. I loved her character. I
Hmm.
distinctly remember this one time, and there was like a wedding in the family, and all my sisters were like picking out like these beautiful lehengas and stuff. And I actually said I want to wear like a pant shirt, like I wanted to wear like a babe, a kiddo tux, a tux basically. And my
Oh,
parents actually did buy me. I think maybe they were just indulging me, and they were like, "Fine, just do what you
and
want."
they didn't have a son.
And I didn't have a son, maybe. So I think they were indulging me. They were nice enough. So I've always been different. I've always been very tomboyish. I never like wearing frocks and dresses and stuff. And only you live with me, I don't have much makeup. Like I just don't. I just was always very different. So I knew that something was up with me from a very young age. Yeah.
But you did find men attractive in
Yeah.
your like early on, right? Like tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I've always, so I think I'm probably the kind of person for whom the person matters more than the gender. And this is something I discovered over time, obviously. So yeah, I dated men, been attracted to men, like love men. But yeah, finally I am with a woman. And to answer your earlier question on marriage, so I've always had very contrarian views. Even though I saw my elder sisters getting married, I never wanted a traditional marriage. Like I've told there's a joke in my family. I always said that I'm going to get married in Goa. Goa at that time meant like some uh, non-traditional destination.
Like rebellious, like a rebellious.
Rebellious, yeah. And the joke in my family is I wear shorts, and they would put gota, which is this golden color thing that you generally put on a lehenga. So I had shorts with the gota on it. So I always kind of knew that I will be with someone. So I was pretty clear on that I'll definitely I'll date and be with someone, but uh, I never wanted a traditional Indian marriage. Like, I was absolutely like 100% clear even when I was like 13, 14, that I'll never have a marriage with like hundreds of guests. And that thing was never going to work. I think if I was in India, I would probably do like a court marriage or something. I really never liked that pomp and show. It just wasn't for me. I knew it from a very young age.
From a young age, did you also find women attractive, or was it at a later point?
I think at that time when your hormones are like high, 17, 18, that's when I started, probably discovering that I have uh, more than regular interest in like women as well. I remember reading one book, Virginia Woolf's book, where she talks about her attraction to her. I think it's a friend who's living with her. So I'm like, this kind of thing exists. Uh, and yeah, I started like noticing women around me. Nothing. So I was kind of like a nerd. So I've never been like too out there with my dating and like liking people. So I've always liked very few people. So but it started to become a mix as I started getting out of my teen years, and I started to basically notice that I like both genders. Yeah.
So now we come to the point where you met Shah. I'm going to call her Shah because that's what we've called her for the longest time. Where did you meet her? I know this, but like the rest of us don't.
So I actually met her on like the sleaziest of dating apps, like Tinder. So it was just I was in Singapore. I was in that I was in that mindset that I want to date and stuff. So yeah, in Tinder you have an option to put your profile as like interested in men, women, or both. So I put both, and I just matched with her. And obviously she's Singaporean, so came from a different culture and stuff. So I was just it was just like, yeah, let's just take it how it goes. And people might not know, but she's extremely shy, and one of her conditions was that we'll only meet after 2 to 3 months in person. She wanted to actually get to know me as a person first. There are a lot of people who waste people's time on dating apps. So I was like, I can't wait that long. So let's at least have phone conversations. So she said, yeah, okay, she can do phone conversations. So we spoke on the phone for almost 2 months before we met in person. And then we're like, yeah. And basically, the phone conversation started as like 5 minutes or like 10 minutes, but then it started getting longer and longer. So that's always a
Yeah.
good sign. So when we met in person, like
Without ever meeting, not
without
even
ever
video
meeting,
call,
exactly.
right? Nothing.
And like she's from a different culture, right? So this is actually we were able to kind of transcend that cultural difference or through phone calls. That was also kind of a fun thing. And then we met in person, and then we just hit it off. And yeah, that's this was, I
And
think,
rest is history.
history. Yeah, this must have been like yeah, actually May. I think May we connected, May of 2019. I think we met in July. So yeah, and we've been together
Wow.
since.
And from May to July, you didn't know whether the person on the other end of the phone is like the same whose photo you
Exactly,
swiped
exactly.
on or something, right? Like it takes a lot of courage to get into, to even make yourself open and available like that to somebody, and like innate trust in just humans out there, to be able to put that much time and energy. And from what I know of you, like you're very protective of these things. I remember a lot of other people you would meet on these apps. Both of us used to meet different people back then, and then you discuss, like if it's not going, like we would have those rational conversations. If like, what is the future of this? Like if this doesn't happen, what's the point? Cut it off. So for a person like that to trust someone on the other end of the phone without meeting, like it's clearly it was love at first phone call or
Yeah.
something.
I think that's also an interesting thing because, like, I think between like men and women, I think that kind of relationship, I think men want to move faster in relationships. I think women, I think just by nature, I mean, there's no like, there wasn't that need to be like, for example, physical immediately or something. I think, we are willing to wait, like, as women. I think we aren't, we are willing to take it slow as well. And so I think that worked even for, Shah to kind of trust me. She was like, this person's not in a hurry. So if this was supposed like a one night stand, someone who wants a one night stand won't invest this much time talking to somebody.
Yeah, and talk to me about the cultural differences you said, right? So tell me a little bit more about her heritage and how it was different.
Yeah. So I'm from India. I'm from the north of India. So yeah, I basically spent most of my adult life in India. And I think only after 7 I moved out. For her, she's a Singaporean. She's born and brought up there. So she has Indian roots, but she's like a fourth generation Indian. So and only I think one side, her dad's side, is more deeply rooted in the on the Indian, like in Indian culture. Her mother's side is actually Malaysian, Indonesian. So she grew up in a very different kind of environment. And she's obviously people from, like, I would say, country like Singapore, which are very safe and secure. They have a very different kind of mindset when it comes to like even work and family and life. But I think where we connected is we are both like nerds and stuff. So we were always nerding out on stuff. One of the first things that she gave me like as a gift was like a crossword puzzle because I love crossword puzzles. That's how we connected. I remember I made a graph for her of how long our phone conversations were going. So I think we connected. So that's actually a pretty interesting thing. We still talk about it, like how we had like very different childhoods, and like, actually we don't even speak the same languages. Our common language today is English. Like she can't speak my
Hmm.
mother tongue Hindi, and I cannot speak her Tamil, and then or Malay or
Hmm.
any other language. So yeah, despite all of this, I think we connected. We've connected, I think, because we have same similar interests and I think similar philosophies of life.
Yeah. And so you mentioned families. So I'm going to dive right into something that a lot of people must be wondering. Like, how did the families react? We come from a country where honor killing still happening for people who marry outside their caste. So for that, how was it with both sides of the family?
I think in my family's case, I think they kind of, I think, already suspected that I'm sort of different. Like they always knew that she's going to do something different. So I started by actually like coming out to my sister first. It's I always say like start with like a confidante kind of a circle. People who you trust. So I came out to my sister first. She's always been very liberal, so she was like, "Yeah, I get it," kind of a thing. And then I broke it to my eldest sister, who's a little more conservative, but I think I think they kind of knew me. So in my family's case, I think it was not 100% unexpected. I think they knew that I'm going to do something different, and I'm just differently made. Also, I was no spring chicken when I met my when I met my partner, right? So they had already brought up the topic of marriage and stuff, and I never was like really deeply into it. So they knew like if I'm bringing someone home, it's actually like someone I like. They trust me at a certain level. They know I'm not someone who's rash. When I started dating Shah is when my mom was actually in hospital. And she passed away a few months. She actually never met Shah. She passed away like in August, September, early September, like 2019.
Yeah.
And like my sort of like I had a parallel like life going on. Never got to tell her that. I think she would be supportive. I like to say the one person I'm a little worried about is my dad. He's on the older side. He's just gone through a lot of like losses in his life recently. So I honestly haven't told him about my life. We're probably thinking of like moving ahead in other steps of our life, like kids and all. So I probably have to tell him soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember what your mom said like once in the hospital. Do you want to share that with the rest of us?
I think it was she was like, I don't care if it's a man or a woman, but just stay happy. I think my mother always shared that just choose the right person. I think she would be happy with my decision as long as she knew I was happy.
And somewhere she knew then, right? Like we talked about it, that like it, you never really told her this exactly, but somewhere like deep down she already knew and she wanted you to feel the confidence from her even without having that exact conversation.
Yeah.
So that
No,
was, yeah.
I think people know their kids. Like I think a lot of I feel like my parents are more like modern, outward looking and stuff, not super religious. So I think they are more accepting. But I feel like even within traditional families, I think parents know. It's just they want to overlook it, or they're like, this is not part of my family. It can happen to someone else's kid, but not my at my home. But I think definitely they know. They know.
There's tons of people out there who are themselves struggling to figure out things about their sexuality, and the big question in their mind is the family and all that. Like, what would you say to them, given your experience and Shah's experience, and like you have a set of people who you know and their stories? Like, what would you tell them?
I think, unfortunately, it does come down a lot to your own personal situation. So there are some people whose families are more supportive. Like I would say, my family's somewhere in the middle. I don't think they are, or there's some. I know people who have been able to come out like in their teens and stuff like that, and their families were like very well accepting. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, and then I know there are families where they are not accepting at all. So my recommendation is if you know your own situation where your family is probably not super accepting, build a life for yourself first. Literally get on your 2 feet, like have study hard, get a good job, build your own finances, and probably figure out a way to live in a city like separate from them, be in a more liberal city or a liberal country. Create that situation and then break the news. That helps you, so in case there's any backlash, at least you have your own life. You're not dependent on them for finances and stuff. I think the worst case situation would be you are in a place where your parents are not accepting and then they threaten you with to cut off your finances or like cut your freedom off. So yeah, definitely that would
Yeah.
be my advice. In general, I think don't make this a center of your life. Build your identity beyond your sexuality. That's what I've always. This is who I am. This is one part of me. So it's not the whole of me. I'm also many other things.
I would have never thought of that advice to even give someone, because it's so you, Malvika. It's not even like it's so you. You think things in structures and patterns and cause and effect. So maybe it's coming from there. And for Shah, like her family, do they know? Are they
Yeah.
accepting? What's the
I think it was like when so she part of the story is that she decided to move with me to the US when I was moving. So that was like a thing for her because Singapore, like the way Singaporeans work is like they generally stay with their family till they get married, and it's a very small country, right? So, they have a unique kind of like social structure as well. So for her mother to kind of accept that, and she's very close to her mother. She has three. She has two sisters, so there are three, and then it's her mom. So they also have a very similar family unit, actually, like mine, like mostly female dominated households. I think it was a big sort of shock for her mother to see us like leaving because she always, I think Renisha did come out to her like a year before we met as well. But I think it was always like, okay, this is not something that's
phase?
real. Yeah, it's just maybe a phase or something like that. But when she actually decided to move, it became more real for her mother. I think there was an initial period of acceptance because it was kind of like she was leaving her nest as well. So not only is she moving, she's moving with a woman to another country. And mostly in Singapore, people perceive like US is not that safe. It's obviously really far as well. So it was a struggle, but I think now her mom and I are good friends. We send each other memes on WhatsApp. I met her family as well. Again, I think on her side as well, it's her dad who's a little more traditional. So I haven't met him, but I've met the rest of her family. They all know. Again, it's going to be, we are trying to find the right time to cover to our dads, I think. But yeah, her family knows as well.
We'll move on a little bit to the um, two things. One, you decide which one you want to answer first. One is the how did you know she was it? Like I know you mentioned, and like how did you both know? You said women are okay to move slow and stuff, and then she took a call on that one big step where you're few months into dating, and she was like, okay, I'm going to leave what I'm doing even professionally in Singapore and move without even in a hetero relationship. Like no, we advise women to not leave their jobs and move for a guy somewhere, right? Like anywhere else in the world. She was ready to do that, and you had your own journey of accepting the fact that she was just going to do this, and how is it going to last? Did you both know right then that you were there going to be like each other's life partners, or just
Yeah.
took a
So it
gamble?
was gradual. I think we did have like some certain like understanding of each other's personalities, like and like some sort of confidence, like going in. As I was telling you, like at the same time when I was dating Renisha, like my mother was in a critical condition. She was actually like going through cancer treatment and stuff. So I was actually sharing a lot of this with Renisha, and her responses were something that was like she was always able to support me, even though she, we had just met and stuff. Her answers were like really her, like the way she would talk to me, the way she would, basically console me and stuff because my mom did pass away. And so that gave me a lot of like, it's you have these trial times or testing times. We had them very early in our relationship, like such a big event. And she was able to like emotionally like give me the support in the right ways. So people can support you, but someone supporting you in the right ways, saying the right things. That gave me a lot of confidence that she is definitely someone I can be serious with. But yeah, I was also moving countries. So I just asked her whether she wants to join. I think she was in that phase of life where she was also at a career sort of junction where she was trying to decide. So she was doing her PhD program and she was trying to figure out whether she should continue or not. So I think it
Hmm.
came the opportunity. Sometimes I think it's just written or whatever you want to call it. The opportunity came to her when she was trying to decide, and she was like, why not? Why not? And we started this as a visa initially was only for 90 days. The Singaporeans have something called ESTA, which gives them like 90 days stay in the US without any conditions. So you can just come anytime. So that was the initial plan. But little did we know, like the COVID pandemic would like just sweep in because we moved in Feb. The plan was
Hmm.
we'll, get to know each other better and then we'll figure out what the path is. Maybe I move back to Singapore or we do long distance for a while when she goes back to her program. But that pandemic hit, and then she basically everything was closing down, the borders were closing down, and she just had one opportunity to leave. Singapore was offering a flight to all its citizens to go back. And then I think she just, probably just decided to stay back. And then from that on, we actually spent, obviously, we were living together. So that's when you actually know someone, the in and out. And I think, yeah, over time we kind of realized that this can work. So it was a slow, gradual thing for us. Yeah, with a lot of like living together during pandemic, I think that's the best test. So I think for a lot of tests early on, and kind of like if you cross these milestones, you already have
Hmm.
a lot of trust. I know a lot of relationships broke down during COVID. We had the opposite effect, when if you can stay in like a small one bedroom apartment with someone over the period of pandemic,
Hmm.
you can survive for life, I
In
think.
a new country
In
and
a new
all
country.
that, like figuring it out when like you feel like the world is about to end, but she still did not take that flight. Like it almost gives me like a rom-com
Actually
jitters, like
true,
one of
yeah.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like
Because
the airport scene where like she has to go but she didn't.
Singaporeans are generally risk averse as well. So I think for her, it was her parents were like, especially her mother was like, come back, and stuff before you get stuck. Because after that, things were getting much more complicated. Like if to go back, you would require a quarantine period and stuff. But I don't know, somehow she just took that decision and, that worked
Hmm.
out
Oh
in her
wow.
favor. So yeah, it was just written, I think,
Yeah, like
because other
written
than
in
that,
the or like the destiny. It was just
definitely.
destiny, and
Because the
that's
other
so
situation
cool.
would be like,
You already touched upon this like visa and those kind of things, so I'm going to bring up legalities in general. Like a couple like you, obviously the way you guys take decisions is very different than how a hetero couple for whom the world is literally designed to fit those needs, or the couple is designed to fit the needs of the world, like it's
Yeah.
debatable. But there, like, Singapore still having not legalized this. There's different rules in India and all that. Like, this better. So would you like to compare the situations across countries, and how do you think about where to live in the future, and yeah, what are those things that are
Yeah,
in
I
your
think
mind?
this was a big part of, I think, Ranisha wanted to probably move as well because she wanted to experience like a different lifestyle. The US, especially we live in like California, is definitely very like forward thinking. You know, basically everything goes here, especially and like it's one of the birthplaces of like LGBT activism in the US, like San Francisco especially. So yeah, it's very well accepted. You can just be yourself. You know, if you want to hold hands in public and stuff like that, very accepted. And even the laws have changed where they recognize like same-sex relationship in all aspects of marriage. So even like you can, for visas and like, basically you're considered an equal. So whether it's a man-woman relationship or a woman-woman relationship, other countries are not there yet. I think Singapore definitely is an interesting example where they are very forward thinking, but for this specific
Hmm.
aspect, they I think they want to preserve their idea of an ideal society. And uh, I think their voting majority is such that it doesn't kind of align with their religious values. So they haven't changed their laws on same-sex relationships, and because of that, there has implications on where you can stay, whether you can buy property, whether you can put someone as your like in medical health,
Like a
as your
dependent.
dependent in your medical health, and then just will and stuff as well. So Singapore is quite complicated in that way. India is somewhere in the middle where I think socially you won't be judged and stuff. I think especially in the big cities, like no one's coming and bothering you per se. Especially two women living together, I think wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't even touch that.
As that. And I think single women can adopt in India, and I think you would just be considered single women. But I know a lot of the forward-thinking companies have now now allowing you to add your partner in like your health insurance. So I think India is somewhere in the
Hmm.
middle. So yeah, that's a big decision. That's a big factor in where we stay. So right now, I think that's why we are staying in the US. Although our families are both either in Singapore and India. I
Hmm.
think that definitely, we I recently visited the Middle East, and we love the countries, like we love the whole environment. It's, for example, we could never move to the Middle East, right? Like realistically speaking. So
Hmm.
that really rules
And
out some areas of the world for us.
and like you and I were talking about Thailand recently. Like, where is Thailand in all of this spectrum?
So essentially, we like I'm also trying to figure out like what I want to do with my life. I'm someone who wants to probably think about like retiring early. I've had like a long corporate career, and I'm like, okay, probably I should think of alternative ways of like maybe retiring early could be one. So that's how Thailand actually popped up on my radar. They've actually changed their laws recently and made like same-sex marriage legal. So that's a country I think that will fit our bill in terms of the fact that it's very close to India, very close to Singapore. It's
Hmm.
obviously a low cost destination that matches my like retirement plans. So that's how Thailand came in my radar. It was not there like maybe even 6 months back. Their laws changed, I think, in January. So I've been actively looking into what that could mean. No plans
Yeah.
yet. It may not even materialize, but that's one possible destination for us in Asia if you want to go back to Asia.
Hmm. So, like, in Asia, is Thailand the only country
I think there is
which has?
Taiwan, Thailand, and Nepal. Nepal is which is there as well, which is unique.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that Nepal has legalized same-sex marriages before. I would think like India's far ahead usually in like their lawmaking and stuff
Yeah,
to Nepal, but that's
yeah.
that's really cool. So that, like, these pops, you mentioned fire, and so I have to go there because also many people don't know what fire is, right? You we have been obsessed with that concept for a long time. Do you want to share what fire is and how that fits into your plan, and then like maybe we get into like your plans about your family, increasing the size of your family, and how does like fire fit in there? Maybe we go there.
Yeah, so FIRE is philosophy. It's basically called, or a movement. It's called Financial Independence, Retire Early. So I think a lot of us have seen, like, especially this generation, we've seen our parents, like, there's been multiple stories, like, people have been saving for retirement till they're 60. And when you're 60, you actually just probably, you get some sort of sickness that doesn't allow you to, people have this plan, like, I'll travel when I'm 60. But by the time you get to 60, you might not be in the right health. Like, this is very, I think it's become really personal for me because I saw this with my mom. Was always this thing like when my dad used to always say when the kids grow up, they you can travel with them. But she passed away when she was like 60. right? Just when we were also, at the age where we had the financial means to take her traveling and stuff like that. So it just hit me like, you can't take your health for granted, you can't take your life for granted. So for me, this is very personal. Like, I want to think about like, so financial independence, retire early, basically means you sort of like figure out a way to increase your income early in your career. You save aggressively, and then you don't have a super lavish life, but then you figure out a way that you can maybe quit your like day job or like a very demanding job. And there are different versions of doing this, but maybe you could have a not a super intensive job, or you could have a side hustle that keeps
Or like a
the cash flow
passive
going. Yeah,
income
passive
stream.
income.
Yeah.
Or some people actually completely retire as well, and then they pursue their passions. So that's something I'm very like we are both very interested in. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
Okay.
something I definitely want to pursue.
And which is why like a place like Thailand would make sense, right? In the future. And if we have listeners who've done something like this, like it should be like they should reach out to us to share
Please
more
do.
on how they plan this. That's what the community is for, to learn from each other. So going from that to, one side you're thinking fire, you're thinking like how do I save enough and all that, and move to a cheap destination. And then on the other end, how do you think about children? How is it different from your like the usual heteronormative ways that couples would think about children?
Yeah. So for us, I think it's a conversation we've started having. I think we've spent like enough time as a couple, so we know each other, we trust each other, we know that this is how this is what it's going to be. So I think that's very important, like to have a good partnership to start with, a marriage, a partnership, whatever you want to call it. You need to have that. That is the bedrock, the foundation of like, even in my mind, to even start thinking about like children. So we've done that stage, we've traveled a lot, so we've done some of the bucket list items that at least I wanted to do before I hit like a certain age milestone. So now I'm like, yeah, now we can think about. Once it's a very logical discussion, I think so. It's not so much an emotional decision as a logical decision. So we both have just started that conversation. I think we always imagined our life with kids. So it's just a matter of like whether we want them now. I have elder
Hmm.
sisters. I've seen how hard parenting is. So for us, is it like, do we want to introduce that? Are we ready for that kind of commitment? Knowing that we both at one point did want children, but like now that we are grown up, do we actually want the commitment that comes with children? Because we have a really nice life right now, right? It's a very simple life. We do what we want.
Hmm.
So for us, it's a very logical decision. And obviously, as being two women, it's not as easy as like we actually have to plan very actively. Like we have to go for like a sperm donor, like an IVF or some sort of in medical intervention. So it's going to be a medical procedure for us that will take a toll both health wise, and we need to be ready. Not take a toll, but I would say we need to be ready medically
And
as well as
financially as well,
financially,
right? Like the
especially because we are also thinking like I am especially interested in fire. How does that play in? So obviously children are like, you can retire with a certain lump sum if you're just two people, like two single people who have some sort of income. But like, when you have kids, it obviously you can't just pack up your bags and go to Thailand. And obviously you want to save for your children, you want to ensure that they have like a great education. So maybe that means for me, for example, if we do decide to have a child, it does mean I might need to like postpone my fire goals. Or I know there are people who are actively doing fire, they're retiring early with children. I'm
children.
actually trying to figure out what that looks like. Do you need to save more? Do you need to move to
Yeah.
low cost country? Like, how can you do this even with children? It's something we're figuring out.
And how would you decide, like, or how are you deciding who will carry the child between the
Yeah,
two of you?
that's again an active discussion. I think we have a little bit of like a age thing that we are considering. So I'm 38, she's 32, so she definitely has more time. So we are trying to figure that part out as well. So we recently just started watching videos on like what it will entail. Will it be easier for her to carry? Does that give us more time? Like in case we're still not sure within a year. I think her being younger definitely gives us more time. I know even for that there's a cutoff, right? I don't want to be a parent at like I don't want to start this journey when I'm way in my 40s or something. So we definitely need to decide. We're trying to decide that yeah, we haven't reached a conclusion yet.
Yeah. And how would you say this is different? Not just the decision about who will carry the child and who will bring in the money and all that, right? Like, how would you say your overall relationship and where you're at? You seem to be taking every step and every decision as it comes, rather than like having a male hat and a female hat kind of thing, right? Which is something that many people are curious about, queer relationships as well, that like how does the like are there any norms, is there a guide, like how do people decide who's going to do what, like who's going to be the one pursued, who's going to be the one bearing like getting flowers and things like that.
Exactly.
So what, how do you guys do it?
Yeah. So I think that is the one of the like I think I consider it a blessing. Like we actually don't have any gender roles in our like relationship. Like there was no one. I know how it works in regular relationships. And we you fall in love and then you're like, okay, I want to make this like permanent. Then the guy goes out on his knees proposing, and I know there are like people who spend like obnoxious amounts getting the rings. It's there's pressure on men as well, right? Not just on the women. We didn't have any of that. We were just okay. We just talked about it. We bought each other rings. Like there was no like the diamond should be this big. There is no societal expectations on us to do some things. So that really works in our favor, I feel. No, there is no male role. Like there's no male ego in this relationship. So that allows us to take decisions that are very right for us in a very logical manner. So there's no egos involved. There's no like expectation of this person should be wearing the pants in the house. This is how it should be, or like this one you should be cooking, I should be doing this. We both do both equally. We both are like working jobs. We both cook in the house. We both have our like set of chores that we do, and there's no
Hmm.
gender attachment, gender association with any of that. And I think that really helps.
Yeah. And did did you start out being like that, or was there a like is it an active discussion?
It's an active discussion that we don't need to go into those kind of roles, and we've actually everyone's seen like toxic patterns maybe with our parents, especially their parents, of how the male woman male female relationships were. So we actively know those things and we try to avoid them. We're like, we don't need all that in our life, right? Because we are going to do everything
Hmm.
equally. It does require, I think, the way society is set up, it has these expectations actually create like the guardrails as well. For example, like for women, for example, we always advise them, don't leave your job. If you like, always have your own active career, own sort of income when you're with a man. Like now these things, we don't have those guardrails, so we kind of have to trust each other more. So it is great,
Hmm.
but and you're kind of like have to go through some societal challenges coming out and stuff, so you actually have to trust the person even more. So it actually contributes to, you need to have a strong relationship because you don't have
And
those
like
societal
stronger than
guardrails.
what, yeah,
Yeah,
because the it's not like if like people go for a divorce, you know that the judge will be usually like side with the woman, or like you will have somebody will have the sympathy and somebody, so there's no, like as you rightly said, there's no societal guardrails. Sometimes societal guardrails are good in some shape or form, right? And like with the parents, like situation would always be complex, so it's not like they will come in and save you and all of that, so
and like there's no like, for example, let's ask Bahu kind of thing. Like there is no Bahu in that relationship. So no one's parents are like, my parents can't say anything, her parents can't say,
so
behave in this
nobody knows
way.
what to do anyways.
Exactly. Everyone's confused, so we just make the best of the situation when everyone's confused. And there are no
I
rules.
wish like we could hit the reset button on our society, right? So that like even you almost make like we know how hard it is to be queer in this world, and you're almost making it sound like a thing that
It's
everyone
like a cheat
should be
code. I
doing.
know so many
Yeah.
girls have come and told me like, you don't have the problems that we have because you've kind of escaped this kind of like, you've taken the cheat code. So it's like a game in which you get a cheat code. So I feel
Cheat
like okay,
cheat
we
code by just being with a woman because you like
exactly,
all the things that we can't figure out about men.
yeah,
My
yeah,
god.
exactly.
And you know that in our, I know you listen to our episodes usually, so you know we had two best friends who've decided to make a life together, and there's like that's a cheat code also,
That's a cheat
right?
code.
Like if you're, yeah, that if you can have life partners who are women in different aspects, and I guess we just don't need the men as much in our lives, especially the ones with that ego that we
Exactly.
talked about.
I mean, I think we are setting
Yeah.
like a new template. I think one thing I'm really glad is that to be I was born in this generation, because even one generation ago, doing what we are doing would be much much harder, right? Like, so lucky to be born in this generation where we've probably seen things that are not working, and then we have a template. We have our own, like we have the freedom to create our own sort of relationship that works for us, right? Where you don't have
Yeah.
like some preset boundaries and stuff. And I'm hoping the next generation actually learns from us, right? They
Yeah.
truly build the relationships that they want, not based on what expectations, gender expectations there are, societal expectations. So I'm happy to be born
Yeah.
and so lucky to be born in this generation this time. I think that is
Or
the
this generation, but also it's also a matter of geography, right? You were in a place where, I mean, I don't want to comment about the US, but you're in California where this is all accepted, and maybe like you feel like you're already in the future, because if someone was still in India, or like even like I live in a Catholic country in Ireland, I know things are changing here, but there's like all sorts of laws where you like, so there's so much to be done, and I wish and I hope that there's someone listening out there who can do something like a small bit to change even their part of the world, their part of the society, their part, or even just like become that inclusive person in the, like in your neighborhood, who a kid can come and talk to about something like this, right? Like that's definitely.
And to your part, like I was born in Delhi, which is obviously a big city. All of that also contributes, right? Like my parents were educated, so it just adds up. So yeah, lucky to be. Many things have gone right for me to be and my partner to be in this situation.
Yeah. And one final question before we end, because we always end with a financial question, and we talked about finances quite a bit, but between the both of you, how do you divide your finances, and like how does it work?
So I think we do things equally. I mean, we both have jobs and we'll continue to have jobs and stuff. But I think I just happen to be in a career that's like in high demand at this point, and especially in the Silicon Valley. So because we are staying in the Silicon Valley, for me, the I'm we are literally staying here because I can get jobs. I'm the one who probably carries some of the bigger expenses. But yeah, we definitely do. We don't do 50-50, but we kind of have like a very even split of like responsibilities and like financial responsibilities. We have our own accounts, but like I'm the one who takes care of some of the big expenses, just because as I said, like I'm in an industry that pays more. She's a scientist, and her kind of like those industries, like she's a material scientist. Those industries generally don't pay as much as like high tech does, especially in the Bay Area. So I take care of some of the biggest expenses, and she takes care of the fun expenses. When we go, all the travel, all the experiences, the food,
Hmm.
especially restaurants and stuff, like the going out experiences is what she covers. I cover some of the rent and other aspects. Yeah.
Okay, so it's been very like fair and clear from the beginning, right? Like it wasn't like it went through different, like did you try out different methods to reach here, or
Yeah, we did.
was it?
So we've gone from a place where she did not have the active work visa to the place now where she has a work visa. She can work on her own, and then she's bringing in uh, more of the money as well. So we've gone through it. And she's also someone who believes in like sort of like having like a laid back job. We both are have the same, like, we don't want to continue working forever. We like
Yeah.
actively we try to figure out how we can manage our finances, and we are very, I think one thing to call out is we are not super, like, me, like I'm not someone who has like big needs. So that, I think, having the same financial philosophy, that really helped us a lot. We both are, I would say, semi frugal. We don't cut out on expenses,
Hmm.
but we don't dream of palatial homes and like having the fanciest car or the fanciest phone. Those things are just not important to us. We just want like a
Which,
decent.
like being in the Bay Area, like I know how it can get to you, right?
Yeah,
Like tech
exactly.
people around you are driving Teslas, buying bigger
Exactly.
and even bigger homes with pools and things. Like it's getting crazy a bit there. So it's so good to be on the same page as your partner and like to figure this out
That I think
early.
is very, very important. Otherwise, it will lead to a lot of like, it just lead to like a very unstable partnership. Like, I think the fact that we are financially also aligned really, really helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think
No,
it
that
contributes to every small decision. Where do you go to eat? What do you do? How do you spend your day?
where you go to vacation, where it's all like if the other person is not okay with or embarrassed about it, like it'll lead to one of them forcefully changing the other person.
Both like to prioritize experiences over things. So that's something we realize. Like we spend a lot of our money, like the say our savings on travel, and we like really prioritize that over like other experience of owning things, like Rolex watches or like Teslas or something, or like having a super fancy, like in the Bay Area, like having a multi-million-dollar house. We'd rather not have that, and rather like rather take a like a buy a camper van and take a trip around the US. That would be our ideal. So yeah, we are
Yeah.
very aligned financially, and the goals that we want, like what do we want to do with that money?
No, that's amazing, and that's something everyone should learn from, right? Like it's in any kind of relationship. This is very easy to figure out early on, just with a couple of questions. Even
Exactly.
like when you're getting to know about the other person's history, like the way they talk about materialistic things can give you like a very quick idea of, okay, like is this a person who values Rolexes over experiences, like or not, and then you decide accordingly. But
Exactly.
we're not here to like, we're preaching to the choir,
Choir.
both of us right now, so it's good. No, but this was so lovely, Malvika. I think we got through all the questions that I wanted to. Do you have any final thoughts for your listeners today?
Hmm. I think the only thing is like we grew up in a world where there's a lot of templates, and where you see things working in a certain way. But I don't know, for some reason, like I always think, like if God didn't want people like me to exist, he or she wouldn't make people like us, right? The fact that there's 10% of the population that probably has like wants to be less, or that might even grow as we as society becomes more open. So there's no, you don't have to always fall in a template. You can build your own life, especially where we are in society. So if you feel different, that's not a bad thing. Use it to your, make it your personality, make it your, like, have a little courage, be bold, and try. Just don't follow anybody blindly. Make your own template, and that can work actually much better than a templated relationship, for example. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, that's so cool. And that like goes totally in line with the prickly pears philosophy as well that we've been trying to promote. Like be prickly, be you. And as people say, like no one can be better at being you than you, right? So there's no competition. Just be yourself and you'll find your community, you'll find your set of people.
Exactly.
And on this note, I don't think there's anything left to say. So thanks a lot for joining us today. And I hope our listeners enjoyed this conversation. Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me.
And with that, we're
Bye.
out.